Evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Just a Little Bit, a live D&D podcast with an LGBTQ plus cast. I'm Evan. I am your GM for tonight. I'm going to be taking you all into the world of Obra, and specifically into a tiny little corner of it called Rutenia, a city that is currently rife with a civil war, as son and uncle fight over the recently murdered king's throne. The Uncle Colm, the Pretender, lurks in his mountain citadel of Pretender's Crown far to the east, and you meet the adventurers here in Truehome, the capital city of the Loyalist faction. A beautiful university town, which now serves as the home of the right-leaning side of the Civil War. I'm going to take a moment now for us to introduce everybody else who will be playing tonight. They're going to introduce themselves and their characters.
Hi, I'm Bandit. I use he, him pronouns. I will be playing Flip, who is an Almare bard who also uses he, him pronouns unless stated otherwise. And his fun fact from last episode, Flip does not like clothes on a good day.
Hi, I'm Chase. I use he, him pronouns. I'll be playing Calvin and Corporal, who both use he, him pronouns as well. Looking forward to making that crop top fit Corporal today.
Hi, I'm Joey. I use they, them pronouns, and I will be voicing Thorn of Clan Yana Sofra, who also uses they, them pronouns. They have no fun facts. You already know too much.
Hi, my name is Tay. I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. I play Twiddlemop, the Stalsered Warlock, and a fun fact about Twid is that you are going to be meeting a lot of the dolls they use. Oh, and Twid uses they, them pronouns. But yeah, they have a lot of dolls.
And I'm Zach. I use he, him pronouns, and I will be playing Valen, who is a verdant and uses they, them pronouns. And Valen's fun fact is they made the crop top last week, so very proud of that.
All right, and just as a quick recap for everybody who's joining us tonight, in our previous session that we ran before, everybody in the party ventured into the sewers deep below Rutenia, looking for several people who had gone missing in the refugee neighborhood just outside of Rutenia, known as the
floodplains.
Known as the floodplains. The floodplains has served for a place where those who are running away from the front of the Civil War and those who are so impoverished they're unable to find either work or places to live within Rutenia come to find a home. They had been going missing for several weeks now. Most importantly, or most noticeably recently, a young noble cleric of the goddess Divina had gone missing while looking for the people in her flock who'd been disappearing. As a result, the party had been hired by Large Marge, their patron, to get to the bottom of the disappearances and put a stop to them. Digging deep into the sewers below Rutenia, they found a large amount of what they hoped would be water and other various wastes, as well as a rat folk by the name of Skibbets and his magical wardrobe of cloaks that were animated to entrap and capture those using the sewers as a pathway. They defeated Skibbets, turned his once plentiful wardrobe of cloaks into a crop top that is now being sported by a member of the party, and found Elena, the missing acolyte, and several other members of the Floodplains neighborhood. Now they return to the surface and find themselves once more breathing the fresh and far less sewage-filled airs of the floodplains. As the party leaves the sewers behind through a large sewer grate that they had previously used to enter, they head out into what is now known as the floodplains. Ruins left behind by some previous civilization just to the south of where Rutenia now sits, or Truehome now sits. Truehome, as a large university city, was redesigned to make use of a number of the nearby river and turning it into a number of canals that now flow through the city, powering industry and allowing people to move quickly from place to place. A side effect, unfortunately, is that the floodplains, these old ruins, became the place where all of their extra water was redirected. As such, the land here is now grown marshy and doesn't really result in very much crops. And so those who live here have to look for work in the city using one of the few inexpensive ferries that run between the floodplains and the city proper. The air here is constantly filled with a low-hanging marine layer of fog. And most people find that if they stay for too long, a racking cough and a chill tends to follow them wherever they go. Our party returns here to the fresher air, though still murky and wet. And now it's up to them. What would they like to do?
We should return these folk to Marge immediately. She'll need to know of what's happening.
Well, are we taking them to Marge's, or are they going back to the temple?
I mean, I
For us to split up.
probably want to
Go
take
ahead.
Elena back to Marge at least to prove a job well done. That seems like a good idea.
And as you say that, Elena steps forward and loops her arm around Calvin and leans in a little bit and says, "Oh, I really appreciate the save. It's so nice to be out of that little dank dungeon room. If you don't mind taking me back to Marge, that would be excellent. I really want to make sure that she knows what you did such a good job." And she says that she looks up into Calvin's eyes and bats her eyelashes a little bit. And you're a little surprised that somebody who was recently entrapped by a rat folk rogue is now full of flirtatious energy.
I feel like Porkroll's gonna come up and like put his little cat paws together and like push them between Calvin and the cleric, and like push them apart and then stay between them.
Okay, so as you watch Porkroll, Calvin's large animated construct, which is set in the style of a samurai cat, walks forward and pushes Elena, the slight cleric, away from Calvin. And you can see Elena kind of turn to the rest of the party and jut out her lip in a pout, but then she gives a little shrug and accepts what's going on. She says, "Well, I suppose I shouldn't tease you so. If you could return me to Marge, I'm sure she'd be very grateful, and I'm sure my father would as well."
Don't take it personally. The cat is territorial.
It's okay. It's not the first time I've had a no. It always results in a good story anyways.
At this point, Flip is going to walk up and loop his arm around Elena's other arm that she wasn't using on Calvin. And just be like, I'd love to talk more about that book of stories that you have. And I'm a bit of a story collector myself, you know.
A story collector and so handsome. I appreciate the company. And she falls into step with the rest of you. I will say what you know is in order to get down to the floodplains, you did take advantage of one of those ferries. They run fairly regularly between the city and the small refugee camp of the floodplains, taking people to the day jobs that they're able to find, working in various construction or other industrial ventures to try to make a few coin.
Thorn is going to look at the Ashahai who we rescued and ask them again in Ashavik, "Will you be all right from here?"
I wouldn't worry about me. I'll be just fine.
Good. Should you need work, Marge has more than she can handle.
And he smiles at you and he's like, "I wouldn't worry about me. I managed to find work somehow." And he gives you a little tip of the head and a tap to his shoulder and says, "Best of luck in your hunt."
May the Frost Maiden follow you.
And you as well. And as he says that, the long, lanky frost elf, the Ashahai, gives a nod to the rest of the members of the party and pulls his cloak hood up over his head, dropping it low so that pretty much all that's left showing is the little bit of chin that's still that light blue of like freshly frostbitten flesh, wraps the rest around him and disappears down into one of the side streets into the ruins of the floodplains. Taking that moment, the rest of the party passes through the refugee camp, and the sight that greets you it's a little depressing, unfortunately. While Britannia itself as a nation was very profitable before the Civil War, and especially Truehome as a university town had a great deal of industry and nobility present all the time, the war has driven people far from their homes. As a result, the people you see here are living a hard scrabble life, scraping to get enough food and shelter and warm clothing to help them through what is now the milder months of spring. But you know that as it heats into summer and then slowly turns to winter as the seasons change, there's a very good chance that not everybody who's here, unless they can find a resolution to the war or a safer place to live, will be here the next time the cycle turns. Passing through the camps, you see a mix of people, humans, the Hoshin and Rhiannon, the two native populations, as well as some Stalsared, members of the Ashborn, the Ashahai, all mixing together, which definitely lets you know that life in Britannia has been deeply affected by the changes of the Civil War. Before long, you find yourself at the docks to the ferry. Middle of the day as it is, most people have left for their jobs already, so it doesn't take you very long to get a spot on one of the ferries moving back into town. And they take you across the river, further up, heading into Britannia proper. As you get there, the sights that greet you change dramatically. The ruins of the floodplains are left behind, and you see a city before you laid out in a valley that leads up into the mountaintops that has 4 large canals coming towards you, rushing water, filled with boats going both directions. The shores along it are dotted with streets and numbers of businesses and houses of all different shapes and sizes. And it seems like Britannia itself, or Truehome itself, is a city fighting to find its own personality, as the majority of it is dominated by these large, very Baroque style, elaborate houses that give you very much like the classic Italian feel of ostentation, gold in the filigrees, marble in the accents, and across from them are these elegant homes with small gardens that they're managed to maintain in the style that's far more similar to an Asian design, which you know to be part of the Hoshin people, a native population that moved here to Britannia not too long ago to share their knowledge about how to farm and to do business in this climate. As such, you can see there's pagodas, mansion houses that are designed from elegant wood with blue tiled roofs and have large sprawling gardens. And as you see this, you think to yourself, life in Britannia is divided between the haves and the haves, not just as firmly as it is anywhere else.
Thorn from the boat is going to point out to one of the golden buildings and turn around and go, Valen, tell me, how many of the refugees of war do you think could have been rehomed and helped to reset up their trade from that building alone? It seems a waste of resources.
I mean, you're right, Thorn, but it's also so pretty. Look at it.
It is certainly large.
But you're right. I mean, it would be better off served to help the people. I will admit, even if it is pretty.
And as you think that, you start to pull out of the Tylan River proper and into the various canals that cut through Britannia and speed the industry. At the same time, you are directed by a man in a very slimming guard uniform of a deep red that is cut very tightly, that you know to be the guards of Truehome. And one of them guides you towards the channels, asking very loudly, which channel are you picking? And the man held up the sort of 3 fingers to let you know that you are heading down Pelicar's Tide, a magically enchanted canal that lets you actually ride both upstream and downstream depending on which side you're on. As you pull to the right, the current suddenly picks up from beneath you, and you can see that the people who are previously paddling the ferry pull in their oars, and now you're being carried along on a gentle tide. And eventually it pulls you up into the market district on Pelicar's Tide, and you see a bustling part of the city full of trade. There are merchants set along each side hawking their wares, selling exotic goods from across across Obra. You can see amongst them representatives of almost every race and people. You can see they're selling food, common everyday goods, art pieces, animals. It is a real hustle and bustle. I would say if you want to head to see Marge, since you've only been to her offices a couple of times, I'm going to require that somebody make either a knowledge history to know how to navigate the city, or a diplomacy check to have themselves successfully get directions.
Which one's diplomacy?
Oh, sorry, persuasion.
I can do persuasion.
I'm decent in that history. 21 history.
21 history? Yeah, with the history, Calvin, it's not hard for you. With your aspirations of being part of the city guard, you've actually memorized several maps of the city. They read to you just as easily as architectural or, mechanical designs. So after a quick moment, you lead everyone down one of the main streets, and you find yourself standing before a business that you know belongs to your patron, Large Marge. It is the butcher shop, the Stuffed Dragon's Larder. The large sign hanging above shows a comically overstuffed dragon laying on its back, patting its large stomach, and holding a leftover bone from what the meal it just must have eaten. And you can see that the shop does decent business, as there's probably a decent amount of people going in and out.
This whole time, Flip is just going to be kind of in conversation with Elena and asking about her book of stories and just kind of trying to suss out a little bit what happened down in the ruins.
Oh, give me give me a persuasion check as you're talking to Elena, and let's see what how much you managed to charm Elena.
Sure. That's ooh, okay. Let's see what we get here.
Our characters while we're watching the stream. If you hover over, you'll see that there's a little D&D Beyond pop out that will actually pop out. You can click on each character and learn more about their stats. So you can see important things like their skills, the abilities their classes give them, and even some more details about the races that they all are.
So Flip got a 13 on his persuasion, as he's just kind of still a little thrown off by the whole ruins ordeal and being down in the dank, gross water.
Well, luckily for you, you saved her life, so she's predisposed to liking you anyways. So 13 is enough to convince her to tell you a little bit more about her book of stories. She's actually happy to let you know that as a fellow storyteller, you're probably familiar with Davina, the goddess of the hearth and stories, one of the patron gods of humanity and of actually one of the patron gods of the Britannia that you're in right now. All of her acolytes are charged with collecting their very own book of stories that they would be able to use to help calm patients, help people that are grieving or moving through difficult life processes. And they're not truly ready to become a cleric until they've completed their very own storybook. And she's pretty confident this might help her get even closer to being ready for full clerichood. And she's happy to share a few stories with you if you'd like. She's happy to trade a couple of your spirit tales for a couple of her stories.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my, definitely. I would love to hear some of your stories. Especially, I'd love to hear your interpretation of the events surrounding your capture. That just seems like a really juicy tidbit that if you think it's really going to like push your book over the edge, that's the one I definitely want to hear.
I suppose so. Why don't we plan to meet, say, 3 days from now? You can come and pick me up at the temple, and I should be done with the story by then, and perhaps you could share a meal and I could tell you a little bit more.
It's a date. And I'll give her a little wink and a hair toss.
And she definitely gives you a little sultry look over her shoulder, and she goes, well, now it's back to business. You should probably talk to Marge.
Oh, yes, Marge, of course. Can't keep her waiting.
Yeah. So as you head towards the front door of the Stuffed Dragon's larder, you're reminded that Marge actually keeps her offices in the basement, which are accessible through a separate door. You leave behind the bustling storefront, heading behind the building into a small alley, and you find that there's a doorway set down a flight of stairs. Heading down, you can hear the thunk, 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 thunk of your feet on the wood of the stairs, and you find yourself stepping into Marge's office. So I'm just moving us over to a new map. You are all just outside of her office doors on the street. And you can feel free to move yourselves into the building proper. And as you do, I'll give a little description. So heading down the wooden stairs, you leave behind the hustle and bustle of the street, and it grows surprisingly quiet as you turn into a wooden door that seems to be carved and pockmarked with the signs of a lot of hard use. Pushing the doors open, you're greeted, and luckily for you, not surprised by the presence of two large, hulking minotaurs.
Oh.
Not sure about the stream.
Twit is gonna run in excitedly first, and just as they're going by, the minotaurs go, hi, and just like keep shuffling through.
Twiddle mop. And they give a little nod of their heads to Twiddle Mop as you go running by. And with Twiddle Mop as a Stalsered, everybody else probably comes up to about chest height on them. Twiddle Mop comes up to about knee high, since he's only roughly 3 foot tall. And the large Minotaurs are probably more around the realm of 7.5 to 8 feet tall. Their heads almost brushing the tops of this basement. The basement itself, a little bit surprising. When you look around, you find it sort of nice. The walls themselves are covered with what seem to be kegs and barrels that are carefully labeled underneath on each. And you can see that there's probably a large, if any of you have a taste for liquor, there's a pretty decent supply of various vintages of wine and alcohol along the sides, and the large red carpets rolling through the center. And as you watch between the two Minotaurs, they're both clad in chainmail armor that covers their bodies for the most part, and have large axes sitting upon their back, and one of them has a hammer plunked next to him. Now, most of you aren't super familiar with Minotaurs in your day-to-day life, but even you have to stop for a second and think, well, that Minotaur and that Minotaur look almost like reflections of one another, and you realize that these are the twins. Large Marge's personal bodyguards and head of her personal guard. They make sure that any of the riffraff doesn't bother Marge on business days. I assume you're going to head in to meet with Marge?
Of course.
As Flip moves in, I'm going to check out the kegs and barrels and the Minotaurs in equal portion.
The Minotaurs sort of watch you passively walk by, and you get this feeling like right now they're in business mode, so they're looking at you far more like a potential love interest.
I am looking at them purely like slabs of meat.
Which, as it's the basement of a butchery, I suppose is a little more. Moving through the barrels, you find yourself coming around the corner into Marge's office. The office itself is fairly well lit, and as you move into this part of the room, you can see that there are a number of mage lights set around the wall themselves. They're designed to run off of magic latent in the air and are never going to run out. And as a result, they've still been designed to flicker a little bit like torches, casting a nice warm light across this room. A massive desk about 15 feet across and about 10 feet wide sits plunk in the middle of the room, covered with what seems to be a large amount of rich furs and fabrics. There's a large chicken set to one side that's been torn in half, and there's a number of gold coins and scrolls along the tabletop itself. Behind that sits probably the most striking thing in this room, Large Marge herself. She is wearing this thick pink fur coat that is, for her form, very large. As she stands up, towering, again, probably about 8 foot tall, wear a humanoid body. So she has the body of a very broad but full-figured woman below the coat, dressed in the finery of a probably a lower caste noble. Everything is high quality, well made, white linen tunic, leather trousers, and a large golden icon on her chest with the symbol of a bear's paw reaching into a bag of coin. And Marge herself, also, easily enough, while having the body of a 7 foot tall, full-figured woman, has the head of a black bear. Massive and large, but the eyes shine with a bright intelligence. And when she reaches her hands up onto the tabletop, you can see that they themselves are also covered in the large, thick black fur and in the paws of a bear. And she's turning to look towards the only other denizen of the room, a small kobold, probably about Twid's height, who's perched on a chair next to her desk, counting out some of the coins on the desk and marking them down in a book that you know to be Louis, her right-hand man and personal assistant. No felons at the party? What do you mean there's no felons at the party? There's always felons at my party. And you see Louis kind of like shrink back a little bit. And he's like, Marge, I told you, you're not allowed to have any felons this time. We're bringing city officials in. Fine, Louis, we'll find a new list. Oh, the party, what are you doing here?
Pardon our interruptions, Marge.
Hi, Marge. You look great. I love the coat.
Thank you. It's my ex-husband. My ex-husband gave it to me.
Flip is gonna just kind of like saunter up and just like rub the arm of the coat a little bit and just be like, "Oh, Marge, I love this coat every time I see it. How are you?"
I'm doing so good, and you're looking fine yourself.
Oh, I feel disgusting after being down in those ruins.
Of course. How'd you do? Did you find anything?
We found a lovely cleric of Divina. I think that's who you were looking for, Elena.
She's a good girl. She's a good girl. She comes from a local family.
She seems simply divine.
Mm-hmm.
That's a word for it.
Mm-hmm. Did you find out who took her?
That is a more complex matter.
Did you take care of it?
On the base level,
Calvin's gonna he cut out one of the symbols out of the back of one of the cloaks and just put it on Marge's desk and just push it forward towards her.
there were a number of enchanted coats full of razor blades bearing this mark.
She sits down into her desk now, and she becomes less imposing now that she's no longer towering over the rest of the party. In the chair, this large leather, well-made chair behind her, even though it looks really sturdy, gives the faintest of as her body settles on it. And she sets her paws down, and as she does, the hair on her paws slowly recedes, and her hands turn to be large-sized but human hands. And she reaches forward to pick it up, and you can see that now that the hair is gone, there's a number of expensive rings all along her hand. Basically, every finger of her hand ends with a nice, expensive golden ring with little bits of jewels and diamonds on each one. As she picks up the piece of fabric, she looks at it, and after a moment, she pulls out a small pair of glasses and perches them on the edge of her snout and looks down at it. Combs mark? What are you doing with the mark of the pretender?
There was a rat folk commanding said coats.
I ain't got no room for no rat folk in this family. We don't deal with no rats.
Luckily, this one is dead, and we found he had been keeping hostages.
Is that where you found Elena and the others?
We found
Indeed.
it. From what they said, the rest had been taken to feed. And Thorn takes a moment and pulls out a small notebook. Her.
I don't like the sound of that. Ain't no one fed in this town without me knowing about it.
At this point, when Marge sat down, Twit is just like jumping up to give Marge a hug on her leg.
She actually reaches down with her hand and sort of scoops you up and drops you onto her knee. How you doing, Twiddlemop? How's the cot? You been doing something?
It's good. I'm a little bit smelly right now. I fell into the sewer, but I'm good. Lucretia's good. Copernicus good. Everyone's good.
I'm glad to hear it. You and your doll friends. Anyone been giving you any trouble anymore? Because if anyone messes with your cart, you tell me. Because if they give you trouble, they're dead. The family's dead.
No, my cart's been okay. There were those floating pieces of clothing that attacked us, but...
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that. So, you found Elena. How many other people did you find?
Two.
There were two others with her. Excuse me. There was a halfling and an Ashahai as well.
That's not good. I'm missing a few of my people who do business for me.
They did say that several were with them previously and didn't make it out.
You find everything else?
It's curious. And then Thorn's going to pull out the ring. He had this on him as well as a brand matching the flowers on this ring. I think they're azaleas, although what that means, I don't know.
And she looks up at the entire party and sort of looks at each member of the party as though assessing which one would be the right person to ask this towards. And she turns to Valen finally and goes, "So you bring me the brand?"
The brand?
I do think we pushed the corpse into the sewer.
It's probably for the best. Don't even smell enough. This is a legitimate establishment, and we make sure it's very clean here. We don't have no rats. So you don't have any other leads besides this stuff?
Unless a brand of azaleas means something to you.
It doesn't mean nothing to me, but that doesn't mean anything.
I confess myself still to sometimes feel as a stranger in your land.
That's fair. You're a little unusual, but that's why we like you.
Speaking of unusual, that Elena's quite a character. How much do you know about her, Marge? How much have you worked with Elena?
Are you trying to hide that you're basically asking about Elena and if she's available?
I would say I'm mostly fishing for 50-50, fishing for pertinent information on what happened versus fishing for a date.
Right. You're interested in how she's related to these disappearances, I bet. Nothing to do with that figure she's got.
I mean, I try not to get too interested in anyone that's gonna be a problem.
Because you ain't never looking for no problems.
I get into my fair share of trouble.
I like you, Flip. You're good. And she leans over and slaps one of her hands against your back, and it is way harder than is generally would be a polite tap. And you sort of have to take a moment to avoid slamming over the top of her desk.
Marge, you flatter me, Marge.
Well, Elena's a good girl, so if you're gonna go after her, you treat her with respect.
Well, I treat everyone with respect, at least for one night.
Indeed. All right. So, all of this aside.
Marge, I feel you will not like what I'm about to say, but the guard should be informed if there is truly a monster in the sewers feasting upon its citizens.
Whoa. There's a lot of God talk right now. You know how I feel about the gods. They do their business outside these doors, not inside.
I did not mean to invite them in, but if there is truly a monster and people working to snatch up the citizens of the floodplains, they should be on alert.
Maybe I'll think about it.
I would be happy to go to them myself. I am a known quantity to them.
I mean, Thorn, do we even need the guards? I'm pretty sure we could take care of this ourselves. We're pretty good at this now.
See, Valen's got the right idea.
It's not a matter of our
Valen's got a good head on
capability.
his
It is a
shoulders.
matter of using all the tools at our disposal.
The guards don't usually like me very much.
It is why I suggested that I go and not you.
Well, I suppose you could look into the gods if you want. You feel like telling them something, just remember. Didn't hear nothing about a large Marge being involved.
I don't know a large Marge.
That's what I like to hear. That's why you're on the payroll, kid. All right, so if you're going to look into this, though, I don't know a lot about these azaleas. I don't know that much about these signs, but I know somebody who can help you out. I have one of those archaeologists that work for the university who owes me a few favors. Naoko Sashimo. You can find her in her house. She lives up in the top of Tsushima's Tide. And actually, she'll reach down on her, now that her hands have been turned to human hands, she reaches down and pulls out a piece of parchment from her desk, and she spends a few minutes writing out what you know to be sort of an address that you could give to somebody else who runs a gondolier, and they would let you know where to go.
If one were to be writing this name perhaps for notes, how would they spell that name?
If you were writing it, Naoko is Naoko, and then Sashimo is Sashimo. And if you were paying careful attention, you would know that is also the name of one of the 4 major canals that runs through the city that they are named after.
The Sashimo Canal?
Sashimo is one of the Hoshin generals who first made peace with the Britannians and became part of Britannia and taught them how to essentially harvest the rice that they now use as their major food, the bamboo and other goods that have grown here, after the flowering season changed the climate of the entire country of Britannia.
And so she lives at the top of the Sashimo Canal.
And her name matches the same last name.
When Valen hears the name, they'll just turn to Large Marge and be like, you always know all the important people, Marge. How do you do it?
You know, in my business, it pays to help people out. You know, I'm giving, I like to give.
You're so great, Marge.
Marge, not to be ungrateful, but since you are such a giving person, I believe we were supposed to be paid for this trip into the sewers.
Right. If you go see Balassi, he owes you some money. I appreciate the work you're doing. Let's say your first payout, 400 gold pieces. Don't let him skint on you either.
Don't worry, I will not.
Good. But you let me know if you need anything. After you go and speak to Sashimo, let her know that she owes me a few favors. If she doesn't get you nothing, the other person you can look into, Cleric of Avalis. He owes me another favor too. He can look at those coins you got and see if he can find anything about them.
Flip is gonna kind of lean into Large Marge and be like, when we go talk to Noko, I don't know, do we need to be careful about saying who we're coming from? Any particular phrases we should use at the door?
Noyoko and I have been good. I helped Noyoko out when they were at the university and they got in a sticky situation. We've been good ever since.
Excellent. We'll just tell her Large Marge sent us.
What is Louis wearing right now?
So Louis, the small kobold, is, like you said, roughly the same size as Twig, so about 3 feet tall. But he's a kobold, which is basically like a reptilian humanoid. At the 3 feet tall, they are typically believed to be descended from dragons. But the bloodline has long since diverged from the ancient days when they were once dragons. He's covered with scales that are all like a very light blush of blue. It's very robin's egg, and he is wearing a waistcoat that is all nicely well tailored and has little brass buttons all along the front, with what you would believe to be the chain of a pocket watch disappearing into the front of his coat. Besides that, you can see that there is an actual coat, like a coat jacket that is hanging on the chair right behind him. He's wearing a pair of slacks, and he has a white shirt underneath the waistcoat that's rolled up at the sleeves, revealing that he's wearing 2 nice golden armbands that are like Marge's, a little embellished with some expensive jewelry. And he also has a small pair of glasses that are perched on the edge of his reptilian snout that let him read the books that he's looking through.
So while Twid is sitting on Marge's lap, they're going to lean forward and look over at Louis and go, "Hi, Louis. Hi, Louis," until Louis responds.
Louis looks back at you after he finishes counting one of the stacks of coins and gives you like a little wave. And she goes, "Look at how cute Louis is in his new outfit. He turned 57 just the other day."
It fits well, Louis.
And Louis gives you a little shake of his head and responds to you, "Oh, yeah, thank you. It's very good. Thanks. I like it."
Oh, anytime. If you need anything else, come let me know.
Well, I could use a new pair of shoes because I can't really find any that fit my feet.
For what would you wear them for? Rain shoes, snow shoes, water shoes, beach shoes, sewer shoes?
Mostly for work. So like something comfy that I can wear all day.
I can try and figure something out, Louis.
Thanks, Twin.
At this point, Flip is going to kind of move around behind Large Marge and be standing behind Twid, kind of eyeing up Louis and just be like, Twid, you do quite excellent work, I have to say. As much as clothes annoy me, they do look good when you make them.
You ain't kidding.
Why, thank you both.
As touching as this little display is, there is currently a monster in the sewers.
Oh yeah, we should probably take care of that.
All right. I won't hold you up no more. But don't forget, I got a party at the end of the week, and I expect y'all to be there. And you better wear something nice.
Thorn looks down.
Not armor. This is a social event.
This is the nicest thing I own.
We'll talk about it later.
Marge, do you have any like cologne or perfume or anything so we don't smell like sewer anymore?
And she like turns to look at Louis and she goes, Louis, you want to take care of that? And after a moment,
I do smell like sewer.
Louis reaches into the folds of his coat or his folds of his little vest and pulls out what looks to be a small like orb, and he like huffs on it and like polishes it for a second, and then you see him go through the motions of what you know to be arcane spell casting, and he casts a spell that basically removes the smell from all of you.
Calvin is gonna reach into his coat pocket and pull out a small little contraption about the size of a gold coin. Take a couple seconds, pull out a tool, do a little screw driving, and then put it on top of Twid's head and like press it as if it were a button. And Twid will now just radiate the smell of freshly cut grass.
Okay, that's pretty nice. And this is one of your
One of my artificer abilities.
To make one of those little devices.
A tiny non-magical object now becomes magical and does a silly little nothing effect.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Louis.
If I smell like grass now, are the Minotaurs gonna want to eat me?
No, you know that the Minotaurs aren't typically very interested in eating Stalsered.
They are still sentient, Twiddlemop.
All right, get out of here. I got some business to take care of.
Let's see you next time, Marge.
And walk away.
Before, as we're like walking out, Valen will reach into their like coat pocket and like take out a little vial or like a little flask of oil and put it on Marge's desk and be like, I know how much you loved this oil last time I made it. It made your fur so shiny. And so if you have a party coming up, this is going to be perfect for it.
You're too good to me. I gotta make sure I look nice and shiny. I got a new gentleman I'm talking to. He's a real guy. But
Marge, you're so bad, Marge.
gotta get back to work.
Twid will
Twid
give.
Collecting my cut. I do not wish to meet Balassi today.
And to simplify things, you can fast forward. So after leaving Marge's office, you find Balassi upstairs in one of the offices attached to the actual butchery. Balassi is a very serious golden-scaled ardent scale, member of the race of sentient reptilians who are actually fully humanoid size, that were given reason by the great god Sarcanus, and now serve as master arcanists, scholars, and diplomats across the face of Obra. He counts out the money, making sure to very carefully parcel everyone's bag and seal it before handing it over to everybody so it's very clear who gets the money when. He will allow you to take Thorn's cut, knowing how Thorn feels about him, and signs you all out in a little ledger. He has you sign next to the amount that you agree that you were given.
I feel like at this point, Valen's got to be good at forging Thorn's signature.
Yeah, he's allowing Valen to sign for you.
Oh, yeah, this is not the first time. I'm like, oh, sorry, Belosi, you know how Thorn is.
I'm outside.
And I was going to say, so which of the two leads would you like to look into? You know that there's a cleric of Abalus, and I would say base everyone would be familiar. He is a child of the god of civilization, Elune, and is known as the god of the counting house and merchants. So he is like a merchant god. The other, and then Naoko Sashimo is your other lead, an archaeologist working at the university here in Retenia, who Marge believes might be able to tell you more about the symbols that you found and be able to tell you a bit about their past.
I suggest we start with Naoko. It seems a stronger lead.
All right.
On the way up there, are we passing by the markets?
Yeah, her house is right in the middle of the largest market district in Truehome.
Perfect. Calvin, do we have time to like stop and get some things?
Sure.
We just got paid. And Calvin gives the group that look of like a 13-year-old boy who's really excited to spend his allowance.
Question: How much gold did we just get? If it was 400 each or 400 split between the five of us?
Each of you earned 400 gold pieces apiece.
Ooh.
This was a big job.
Flip is gonna give Calvin a pat on the head and be like, I think we can manage some time for a little shopping.
All right. So, what are you looking for, Calvin? What would you like to buy?
I need to stop at the leatherworkers to just pick up the spare supplies it's going to cost me to fix the crop top of dagger throwing.
Okay, so actually, if you want to roll for me, if you're going to be trying to repair the crop top of dagger throwing like we talked about, and turn it into a magical item that Porgirl could use, just give me a crafting check using your proficiency with your leatherworking tools.
Do you want it dex-based?
Let's call it intelligence-based on this one, because you're planning out the creation of a simple magical item.
Natural 20.
Ooh, with the natural 20, you the leftover remains of the enchanted cloaks that you fought before, and looking at the crop top that was made by Valen, you realize it's not going to be all that difficult for you to repair, nor is it going to require any terribly expensive gold or terribly expensive materials. It will cost what we talked about off of the stream.
Okay. And then my other stop is to start buying this stuff for the other project.
Your other project, special project?
Yes.
All right. So consider yourself, mark down what we talked about as well, and consider yourself to have found the mundane goods necessary. You would know that they're going to have to make some rolls to figure out what other things you're going to need from the magical recipes.
Wonderful.
And we can do that during our downtime. Does anyone else want to purchase anything while you're in the market district?
Twit is gonna look for someone selling studded leather armor.
Oh, you can find that fairly easily. Just if you're not looking for anything high quality or magical, several of the general stores and carts that you pass by that tailor to adventurers would be able to get you a set of armor.
How much would that cost?
That would be the standard cost you see in the equipment for the player's handbook.
Okay, 45 gold.
45 gold pieces. And the merchant that you talk to promises you that it has only been lightly used previously.
Twid will look up. Oh, and I guess it needs to be Stalsered sized.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Armor, Twid. You can't make armor.
I'm not really good with leather.
You're made of metal.
Yes.
Poke you and be like, isn't this already hard?
But the leather makes it even harder. And then I won't get stabbed as much. Or the stabbing won't hurt as much.
One or the other.
Are there any shops with any kind of commonplace magical items?
So you're something more on the magical goods side of things.
Potentially, if there are any shops open and offering such items at this time.
You know what? If you're going to be looking for those actively, why don't you give me an investigation check?
I can do that. Okay. Just a straight investigation is going to be a 5 on the roll.
So looking through the shops, you keep getting distracted by several rather, let's say, appropriately portioned merchants, and you keep getting distracted, and it prevents you from actually finding a good magic shop. You find some, there is a general store that is the Fellowship of the Open Hand is what the name of the store is. It does offer some simple magical goods as well as goods and services for adventurers.
The Fellowship of the Open Hand?
Fellowship of the Open Hand.
I would like to see if particularly they had any magical items that offered any sort of protection.
Right, so entering into this shop is a little bit different from the other shops that you passed previously. The front definitely has the feeling of general goods. There is several large wooden shelves that are set to either side that are full of all of the accoutrements an adventurer would need: tents, supplies for basic spell casting, armor, weapons, things of that nature. As you get a little bit further back, though, you can see there's a large counter set up near the back that has a glass top, and when looking into it, you can see there's several more expensive-looking pieces of jewelry, more elaborate weapons, as well as the basics for potions and potion making. Standing behind the desk is a human woman. She is about 5'6", you would guess, with dark ebony skin and these long braids that are sort of pulled back into a handkerchief. So it's all held back behind her head, and she's dressed in leather apron that is over a pair of, like fairly basic, like brown linen cloth pants and t-shirt. And you can see that her arms, when she reaches them up to put them on top of the desk, have these very elaborate patterns that are tattooed all the way up the forearms. And they look to be runic in nature, and they basically wind around and around her arms.
Flip is going to kind of casually saunter in and come right up to the counter and lean over and say, "Oh, hello there, dear. I love those tattoos."
Why, thank you. Welcome to the Fellowship of the Open Hand Mercantile Goods. I assume I can interest you in something magical?
I would love any sort of magical protection. That would be great. And, if you happen to have some potions of healing on hand, I think those might come in handy soon.
Ah, I thought you had the look of an adventurer around you. I do indeed have several potions of both normal strength as well as the minor potions. So things that will give you basic healing. Unfortunately, if you want anything higher level than that, I'm going to have to special order them. Besides that, for protection, are you looking for I have a few scroll forms that could offer you protection if you have any talent with the arcane or divine magics yourself.
I do, but I just love jewelry and was really hoping for some sort of jewelry if you have any of that on hand.
Ah, discerning, I see. Of course. I believe I might have a few things that would be of interest to you. She points down to the glass screen and says, I have a ring of protection, a ring of fire resistance, and what I actually know is a shield ring.
Would I know what a shield ring is? I mean, I can look it up real quick.
Shield ring would basically be a ring that 3 times a day you can use it to cast the shield spell as a reaction.
Gotcha. That ring of protection looks interesting. How much are you asking for that?
Let me just double check. Because for this one, you are going to have to actually check the bargain for it. So give me a persuasion check.
Okay. Ugh, geez. All these dice have not been kind to me tonight. See if they're behaving any better. Okay. Persuasion is going... Okay, not bad. That's a 17 on persuasion for Flip.
17 on persuasion?
Yes.
Okay. That is going to be, well, I like the look of you, and I know it's always good to do right by an adventurer because that keeps them coming back. For you, 950 gold pieces.
Well, let's see. It is a particularly nice piece. It would come in handy, but I don't know. That's a lot of gold to part with for. I mean, it's really just some extra armor. You sure you can't give it to me for a little less?
Absolutely. I mean, it's important the fellowship make a good business.
Understandable. Well, I'll admit it's out of my price range today, but I'll definitely be back. I'll give her a little wink.
The potions that we talked about.
Definitely, yes. What are your prices on potions? Because I'll take several of those.
I am doing 40 gold a piece or 35 a piece if you buy 3.
I will take 4.
All right, so 35 gold pieces a piece then. We'll get you 4 just standard lesser healing potions.
Perfect. And I will take those and bid her a good day and go see if I can find the rest of the party.
Of course, may Avalis smile upon you.
And you as well.
All right, so anyone else got any shopping to do?
Thorn has barely moved.
Okay. I will say if anyone else has any other shopping they would like to do, we can say that we'll put a little hold here and you can, we can talk during downtime off stream to figure out if there's anything else you wanted to buy with your 400. I will say that it is 8:30 now. Why don't we do a 5-minute break for everybody so we can take a breather and everyone can stretch their legs. And we'll be back in 5 minutes. Let us know, obviously, in the chat if you have any questions or if there's anything you're curious about on the stream, and we will be back very shortly. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Just a Little Bit, Session 2, Meeting the Family. Before the break, the adventurers returned from the sewers to meet with their patron, Large Marge, a Valinan woman who runs a very legitimate business out of beneath the Stuffed Dragon Larder, a butcher shop that serves only the finest cuts of meat to all of Britannia, or all of Truehome. They're now heading out and did a little shopping, and we're rejoining them now as they finish their shopping trip. All right, party, what would you like to do?
Is it time to go find Nawaka?
Yes, we should. It is getting dark. Hopefully Naoko is still at home.
Well, given this address from Large Marge, I think we should be able to find her home fairly easily.
So if you use Large Marge's directions, would you like to purchase the services of one of the gondoliers to take you there faster?
Yeah.
About what time of day is it, roughly?
At this point, when you went down into the sewers, it was early morning, so you're getting into the late afternoon now.
Okay. Flip is going to vote that we take a gondolier.
Deal.
So passage for all of you, it's basically 2 copper a piece to take one of the public gondoliers will take you up to that top part of the town.
That's doable.
You hop into one of the large flat-bottom wooden boats that basically transports citizens to and from in Britannia on Sashimo's Way, one of the largest canals that runs through the very heart of Truehome. As you step onto it, you can feel the deck sort of lift under your feet as it lets go from the dock, and you are pushed along by a steady but gentle stream that seems to be running counter to what you would know to be the natural flow of this river as you're going up the mountainside or up the valley further towards the mountains. As you pass, you leave behind the market district and you pass into some of the residential districts. You can see that on both sides of the canals, there's these large tenement buildings that sort of rise up on either side, full of people. There are large swaying laundry lines hanging out over the canals, as well as spotted here and there the manor houses of the more wealthy and fortunate, as well as several of the temples dot this part of the canal. You pass through a large park that kind of takes up what you know to be the center strip of the town, and the university sits at its very heart. Passing the university behind, you find yourself in the what people call the upstream, which tends to be where a lot of the traditional and ancestral noble homes of Truehome are set. You finally pull up to the address that you gave the gondolier, and they let you know it is time to get out. You step out into, as you look around, what are delicately kept and immaculate gardens. They sort of roll away from you, and you're surprised because not only do they feel well kept, they have this almost a little bit of wildness to them. Green trees sort of swaying over the pathway, gently dropping leaves and blossoms down into your path as the stones are picked out over the thick moss and grass. And in the distance, you can see one of the large manor homes constructed with large shoji screens all across the front and the warm glow of light coming from the inside. And you find yourself at the manor home of the Shishimo family.
Flip is going to stride up kind of what looks to be the main path to the front door.
Are you going to knock, or are you going to wait?
I assume I would know the custom of the area, so if it's polite to knock, that's what I would do.
Yeah, you know that there's a small bell that's set near the door that if you ring will let them know that there's somebody wishing to speak to the residents of the house.
Yeah, I'll ring the bell and kind of stand there, just mildly impatiently waiting.
You wait for a few moments before the door slides to the side and it reveals a man on the inside, Hoshin, which is one of the 2 local racial groups of humans. Almond eyes that are dark and very deep brown, black hair sort of pulled back into a top knot bun, and he is dressed in clothes not dissimilar to what you saw Louis wearing. So a vest over a rolled up black shirt and a pair of leather trews underneath, wearing no shoes, but having pulled on what looked to be like slippers. And he says, "Welcome to the Shishimo household. How can I be of service today?"
We're looking for Nayako. Am I saying that right? Nayako?
No.
Sorry, say it again.
No go.
Nayako.
May I ask who's calling so that I can take your name to Lady Sashimo?
Well, my name is Flip. You can tell her that we come representing a mutual friend.
Lady Margarita Il Ribasso.
Ah, you are, I assume, servants of Lady Margarita?
Associates.
Associates. Of course, forgive me. If you would come with me, I will gladly leave you in one of the waiting rooms while I inform Lady Kyoko that you are here.
Excellent.
Walks in. Thorn's gonna glance over at Flip and say, "She did tell us to name drop. You do remember that?"
Well, I wasn't sure if, everyone in the house was in on it or just our contacts, so I felt it's always better to feel people out a little bit, I feel, but in this case, you had the right instincts.
Wait, who's Lady Margarita?
Marge.
What?
You know how sometimes we call you Twid instead of Twiddle Mop? It's kind of like that.
You've known her for far longer than I have. Did you not know that Marge was not her full name?
Maybe? I thought she was just Marge. Large Marge?
Probably be Marge.
Next time you see your twin, you should call her Lady Margarita and see how she answers you.
Okay.
I don't know. She seems to like the little metal thing.
She is quite fond of her small compatriots.
As you're discussing, you are led in by the gentleman who opened the door to a small sitting room that is nicely appointed. You can definitely tell that while the exterior of the house has a very Hoshin and traditional feeling to it, the inside is very much like practical furniture that far more fitting with the style of the Rian population, which is, again, feels more Italian during the Renaissance in feel. So there's several couches pushed out. There is a large statue that sort of dominates the center that you know to be a depiction of one of the local divinities that the people are fond of, Alfara, which is depicted in the form of a why did this just fly out of my head? A hind, so a deer.
Flip is gonna find a nice chaise lounge-esque piece of furniture and just kind of drape himself over it.
Of course.
Thorn is standing.
We're going with it.
Comfortable.
Calvin's gonna pull out another little contraption, start tinkering with it, and then put it down on the table, and it's just gonna play the Samurai Pizza Cat song.
Of course.
I hate it.
Oh dear. As a little bit of time passes, you probably wait about 10 minutes. A woman appears, very nicely dressed, more traditional Hoshin gear appearance and clothing. A large robe that drapes over her with this beautiful blue silk that is set off with these tiny little patterns that, as you look more closely, you realize it is Ardent Scale script. So the Ardent Scale language scripted across the cloak itself, the clothes itself, tied shut and with a large thick belt. And she steps in, and she is also Hoshin, a little bit shorter, about 5'4". She is, you would probably guess, in her 40s. There's just a tiny little touch of gray at the black of her hair, which is done up in the a top knot bun on the top of her head, kind of set there, with these little tiny combs pressed into it. And she sort of looks around the room a little vaguely and is like, so I hear tell that you're friends of Marge's.
Yes, we come to you on, I suppose one could call it academic concern, but
Fellow academics. I like that. So, what could I help you with?
Thorn once again pull out the ring. I don't know if Marge has mentioned anything. There has been some concern of disappearing members of the floodplain. We tracked a few of them down, and upon their body of their captor, we found this ring. In addition, he bore a brand on his back that matches the flowers of this ring.
And she takes the ring from you, and the sort of vague, little bit like spaced out feeling that she's giving you disappears, and her eyes become very intent as she looks it over, and she sort of looks one way and the other at it. She goes, azaleas, not an uncommon amount of iconography, but not something I see every day. You say that you found this in the possession of the one who's making people disappear?
Yes, on a rat folk.
Excellent. Now, you say the brand matched?
To my eye, yes.
Where
I
did you
admit
find
I
it?
am more familiar with dangerous plants, but
Where'd you find it on the body?
where did I find it on the body?
It was burnt into the top of his shoulder, the meat of his shoulder.
On his shoulder blade.
Well, it's not any of the major cults that I'm familiar with from my research, but I perhaps could tell you more, and if you're friends of Lady Margarita's, then maybe you could do me a service in return.
That would
And
nervous.
And she takes it, she tucks it into a little pocket of her vest, and she goes, well, partner of mine that I work with on my research, we had a bit of a disagreement about a week ago. She felt that I was being a little too cavalier. I felt like she was too cautious. We had recently gotten a number of artifacts, of ardent scale artifacts, recovered from the lands affected by the flowering season, some from ardent scale ruins, and I was looking to find out more about them, but she claimed there was dangerous magic attached to them.
Thorn's fist clenches.
She doesn't notice. She seems completely disinterested in what you're saying, or in your body language. Yeah. She goes, well, you see, Nettle, my friend, is a floromancer from the Verdant. She grows a number of the exotic plants I need so that I can practice my alchemical arts and magics that I need to learn more about the artifacts that we find. I believe that if you help me gain entry into my workshop again and get through the barrier that Nettle built, I can use those spells and my equipment to tell you about the recent history of this item and perhaps who held it before your rat friend.
So Flip is gonna pick up on the weird little moment where she seemed to go from spacey to intent, because let's be honest, Flip is also familiar with the strategy. So can I just insight check her in that moment for what's going on there?
Oh, absolutely. Give me an insight check if you're trying to read off her body language. Because I will say, outside of the role playing and everything like that, the body language she was giving you is very much spacey, sort of she moved very slowly. Her eyes looked very slow up until the moment where you handed her an artifact, and then suddenly it was business.
Oh yeah, Flip is definitely gonna clock that and be like, okay, what's going on here? Are you kidding me? That's an 8 on the roll there.
So, like you said, you've seen this tactic before. You yourself have sometimes played as not being as sharp as you're used to. That's about all you can think of it, though, is you're thinking it's hard to tell, is this the facade or is the other attitude the facade?
Okay. I'm just gonna keep my eyes on her. I'm, half listening to the meat of what she's saying, but gonna be kind of focusing on more of her body language and expressions.
And as you're saying that, she turns and sort of looks across the party, and she sees Valen, and she's like, "Oh, another Verdant. You wouldn't happen to be a floromancer by chance, would you?
Sorry. No, I never picked that up.
Well, one can only...
It's on my list, though.
Your list that has 5 new things every day?
Well, if you're interested in studying the floromantic arts, I could probably get you a scholarship to the university.
Valen's eyes just like light up, and I'm like, really?
Do you have any aptitude for the arcane arts?
I mean, I've never tried, but I'm always down for something new.
I mean, Nettle and I are good friends, but she's a little prickly. I suppose I could always find a new partner. I can be very patient.
Valen just looks at Thorn like with excitement to be like, this is great.
Thorn being the more worldwide member of the pair will give Valen a slight tilt of the head and go, Valen, you're already so overworked at the temple as it is. Would you have time for such an endeavor?
Oh, that is true. I do have a lot of work at the temple still.
Well, if you ever think about it, my door is always open, potential business partner.
I feel I must ask, is there truth to what your former partner says? Are these artifacts active?
And you say that she rolls her eyes a little bit and she goes, I mean, Nettle is the more cautious of the two of us. I did not get into the field of archaeology so that I could spend my time brushing off stones. The Arden Scale left behind a massive amount of history, lore, and occasionally some dangerous arcane objects when they were forced to when they were forced in their mass exodus after the flowering season.
I am familiar.
Their temples lay empty, and for the most part, anything they couldn't carry with them got left behind. Have I found some things in the past that are dangerous? Absolutely. Was the sarcophagus that we pulled out marked with runes that indicated there was a curse? Yes. Do I feel like we were in imminent danger? Probably not.
Has anyone you worked with died?
I mean, of course people I work with have died. That's natural. But I mean, have they died on the job?
Well, yes. That would be my question.
It's a good question.
Your silence speaks volumes, but again, you did not answer my question. Are the ones currently in your lab active?
I wasn't able to finish my research before Nettle got mad at me and she sealed my workshop.
So you're asking us to anger a floromancer and break into your lab where there are potentially ardent scale artifacts active.
Break-in it's a little extreme.
It is the word you used.
It is my workshop here on my property. We've been sharing it. I take one of the floors to be used for any of the artifacts I don't feel like taking into my university office, and also to have my students visit me when they come to see me personally. And she has 2 of the other floors for her floromancy and her other botanical research. We had our little disagreement a couple of days ago, and as a result, she sealed the entire every door and window with plants.
We are a bit of a business-focused party of adventurers. If we were able to get you access to your lab, what can we expect for our assistance?
If you can get me access to my lab, I can provide you a psychometric reading on the patches that brought me in the ring that should provide me information on who made them, when, and how they've recently been transported. It's a great deal of information about your missing people.
Thorn looks to Alan. You know how I feel about ardent scale artifacts. What is your read on the situation?
I mean, I know it could be dangerous, but honestly, I think this is our best bet to try to figure out what's going on. And better to make sure the artifacts aren't going to be used for anything bad. If we can at least get access to them.
I completely respect such a logical conclusion. You really should consider taking me up on my offer for that scholarship.
I will say Valen has a little notebook where they jot down all the new things they want to do and learn, and so they add into it university ? Floromancer ?
Twiddlemop, Calvin, what say you?
Twit is already walking towards an exit and is going to turn around and go, Are we going to go? I thought we were going to go.
Very well.
As you say that, you see the animation sort of drain out of Naoko. She her whole body language sort of drops back into being more relaxed, and she goes, Daichi, these lovely people are brought here by Marge. They're going to be helping me with my research. Could you show them to my workroom? Yes, the one on the back lot, the one that's been sealed with all the plants. Make sure they're not disturbed. Thank you all for your help, and please let me know if there's anything I can do to aid you while you secure my workshop.
Just so we're clear, we just gotta get rid of the plants, right?
Well, if you could speak to Nettle and make sure that she's not going to reseal my workshop, I would be very appreciative.
And she is in the workshop as well?
Yes, she's been in there for about a week now. It's not unusual. She likes to pout sometimes when we have our disagreements.
I am familiar.
Well,
Valen just shoots you a look.
And she says that she gives you a little bow, and then kind of straightens the robe that she's wearing. And for a second, she sort of looks over at you and gives you a very clear, penetrating look before going back to that very washed over malaise of being disinterested.
Thorn's expression does not change.
And she walks out of the room, and the gentleman who you saw previously, who was working as the servant of the door, comes up and is like, if you'd like to follow me, I can take you to the workshop on the back lot.
Thorn's hand has not left their sword for most of the conversation. And Thorn's going to settle to Valen and say, if you feel this is the path you should walk, you know I will follow you.
Oh, I know. You've always been supportive, and who knows? You know I love to walk a million different paths at the same time. You're very, very patient with me.
Keep in mind, though, you only have 2 feet.
Flip is gonna kind of walk up next to Calvin as we are exiting and be like, I mean, she seemed kind of weird, right? It wasn't just me. That was weird how she kind of snapped back and forth.
She's kind of, isn't that what all nobles are like?
I mean, are they? I don't know. I don't think the ones I've met are like that. I don't know. It just seemed weird.
Horizontal.
I mean, listen. I've been around plenty of nobles in more than several positions.
You did not help your cause.
So, are we supposed to be helping this plant lady, or are we killing her? Because I need to tell Lucretia and the rest of them what the plan is.
We are pointedly not killing the kind, verdant woman.
What made you think we were gonna kill her? What kind of do for Marge normally?
I make clothes for Louis.
Calvin looks at his hand and is picturing clothing, and then looks at his other hand and is picturing murdering somebody, and doing the whole trying to figure it out meme. Can't make the connection.
It is my understanding that Our ideal situation is to convince this nettle to open the workshop willingly.
So, like, chop our way through the plants to get inside, and then say, "Hey, nettle, get rid of the plants."
I'm hoping no hacking will be needed.
I think we can try talking things out first and see how that goes.
So as you're talking, the servant leads you through the kind of immaculate gardens. They are the property that's being taken up by this one estate is a pretty decent footprint for being in the middle of the city like this, especially in like the more expensive neighborhood. Not surprising because one of the Shishimo, like I said, are one of the founding families of the current order, where the rulership of Britannia is sort of shared between the two countries, or the two ethnic groups. As you arrive, you find that there is indeed a large workshop, 2 stories, that is it has a little bit more of the feel of, it was probably a 1-story building that got another story added and has had rooms added to it over time. The building itself, pretty unassuming, except for the fact that every door and window has these large vines that actually seem to be growing out of the wood of the building themselves and wrapping around where the entryways are, sealing them shut and holding them shut against entry. You can see that there's a set of large windows that go along either side of the building. As you look at them, as you get a little bit closer, you see that there's a fine net of vines that grow across them, so that light's still able to get in, but you can see the whole thing is covered as though, with like a netting of vines.
Valen will gasp as we walk up and go, oh, "This is stunning, though."
Efficient work.
It's kind of like what you did in the sewer, with all the vines.
Yeah, it's like that, but this is just like another level. I could never be this intricate.
I mean, as I recall, it is her area of specialty. Thorn's looking over, looking for a gap, and I'm assuming can't seem to find one.
If you want to give me an investigation check, if you want to explore the various doors and windows that are all covered to see if you can find a weak spot.
Nope. It was almost good, and then it was not.
A 19.
I'm not sure their plans. I got 2.
Yeah, with the 2, you're a little mystified, and you're also a little off-put because you're thinking, well, if Valen goes to school, what does that mean for my schedule?
But also, if Valen goes to school, then when are they going to be at the temple? And is that not the whole reason we are in this city?
And then, also, are you going to have to adjust your whole schedule now? Because, the university might run different hours than the temple. And, what if they overwork themselves? So, you're really distracted worrying about
I'm going to have to change my guard shifts, aren't
I? So you don't notice anything. But I will say with your role, though, Calvin, as you're looking around it, you see that indeed, like I said, it does appear that all of the plants that are covering it are growing out of the wood of the building itself. And they seem to be wrapped around each other to sort of form a pretty tight knot that's holding everything shut. What you do notice is that there is there's a wrapped scroll that seems to be being held by one of the plants that's hanging just over the front door.
I will pull it down.
So as it holds firm for a second. You kind of have to give it a decent tug to pull the scroll loose. As you do, the vine that was holding it curls back in and disappears into the rest of the vines. And you're left holding the scroll. As you roll it open, it's basically written in common, the trade tongue, the Stalsered language. And it simply says, Naoko, when you're willing to admit that you were wrong and you want to talk, just let me know. I'm happy to discuss things with you, but I expect to start with an apology. Sincerely, Nettle. P.S. A real apology, not one of those bullshit noble apologies where you don't really apologize.
Calvin's gonna read it again, and then turn it around, hold it in Flip's face and say, see, nobles are just like this.
I admit they're weird, but I mean, what do we really know about this nettle either?
Ardent?
I'd like to look for are there any windows or openings, or is it a closed off building that's wrapped in vines?
Yeah, there's windows that are like sort of bay window setups on either side of the building. One sort of more to the front, and the other side is farther to the back. And if you would like, you can give me an investigation check as you kind of look through the windows to see if you can see anything.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me 2, 1 for each window? If anyone wants to help you, I'll give you advantage on the investigation checks.
Valen will help you.
Okay. First one. No. Was a 9 on the highest. Okay, we're not using that die. Nope. Okay, a 17 on the second one.
Okay. So as you take a look in through each window, the first window, you can see that there are not just vines on the outside, but there's also seems to be a number of plants on the inside that are blocking your view, and you're not really able to see much more beyond the plants. The second one, as you look through, there are curtains drawn sort of on either side that are these deep red curtains that are blocking out the view on the other side. One of the windows is still open, though, and as you are kind of glancing through, trying to get a look at the room itself, you can see that there is a large golden statue that sort of sits right in front of the window. From the back, it looks to be the back and the hood of a large cobra in solid gold with these etched symbols all along the back. And you see like a flicker of movement from inside the room, and then it's gone.
I can see inside the room, though.
You can see inside the room a little bit. There's the cobra that's sort of covering one part of the window that you can't see very clearly. You can see there's a desk just in front of you. The room itself, though, seems fairly dark, so you can't see very far into it other than being able to see that there's like the shape of furniture, and you had done like a flash of movement.
The door, I assume, doesn't move at all. Like if I try to open it.
If you try to wiggle it a little bit, you actually hear the sound of the vines like seem to be constricting a little bit, holding the door even more tightly closed.
Valen will call out, like, I guess, like to the door, try to like get up close to the door and yell out or call out in Loaming specifically.
You cut out there.
Oh, sorry. I'll say in Loaming, sister, we've come to talk. Hopefully we can make everything right between you and Naoko.
After a moment, one of the vines, a little flower, grows off of it and opens in the sound of your voice, and you hear a voice come through on it. I believe, Naoko, I told you that if you want to talk, I'm going to need an apology.
Thorn will say in Loaming, which I'm assuming has a heavy accent, Naoko would not come.
There's no response.
Mm-hmm.
Could I try and figure out like an acid or a chemical that's going to make the vines wither away from the door?
Sure. I mean, you have a proficiency with alchemy kit, right?
Yes.
Why don't you give me the check with advantage, since you would have the appropriate thing to figure out what would work. And I will say, as you're working, just give me that check. Looking through, you do manage to look through what your alchemical gear is, and you get the feeling like enough acid or enough fire would probably burn through you, just to be careful not to damage the building itself with that much acid or fire. About a minute into the work, though, you hear the same voice say, I believe, Naoko, I said if you wanted to talk, I needed an apology.
Twid will just yell out, I'm sorry?
Give me a persuasion check.
Why did we let him do this?
8.
Oh, you tried.
Oh, honey.
As you say that, the flower that was speaking kind of like seals closed and another blooms next to it. And you hear, I said a real apology, not one of those bullshit noble apologies. Try again.
I'm going to use, I have 2 vials of acid. Is that going to be enough to open the door?
You don't know. You aren't sure. It would definitely damage the door. Does anyone want to try to apologize
Um,
again?
Flip is going to step away from the window for a minute, step behind somewhere, and pull out a Taroka card, and I'm going to cast Disguise Self on myself to appear as Noka.
Okay, so as you cast the spell, Naoko's form washes over you, and Flip is gone, and now you see another version of Naoko, although the body language is very different. But what would you like to do now that you've transformed into Naoko?
Just to clarify, does that also change voice? Does Disguise Self?
Yeah, so Disguise Self will alter your voice.
Excellent. Okay. Then I'm gonna kind of catch a breath, wait a second, and step back around and walk up and say, my dear Nettle, I really am so sorry. I really do think you were right.
Ooh, give me a persuasion check as you say that.
Oh boy, come on, let's do this. Okay, that's a dirty 20. That's a dirty 20.
With a dirty 20, you say that, and you really pour a lot of feeling into it as you apologize and say, "My dearest Nettle, I'm so sorry." And after a moment, the other flower seals close, and you hear, "Rrr," and the vines that were previously covering the door slide open and disappear back into the wood. Now you can see that it's just a normal set of doors that would allow you to go in. There's no longer anything blocking you.
Twit is just gonna look around at everyone and go, why was that any better of a apology than mine? We said the same thing. They just said it longer.
In the manner in which it was stated, Twiddle.
All right, so let me move us over to a new map now that you've
I feel like Calvin's gonna walk up and just like pat Twid on the head, and then just walk through the doorway.
So if you new map, this should be live. You can find all of yourselves at the very bottom. As you enter this front chamber, just put yourself where you'd want to be as you enter into the first room.
Valen has no shame. They would be like towards the front.
I'm gonna say Flip as Noko. Just kind of tries to imitate her more like lazy demeanor, her sleepy, lazy demeanor, and just kind of walks in and sits down on the chair by the door.
So walking into this room, it fits what you would imagine as like a working space and meeting space for somebody who works in the archaeology or the antiquities field for the university. There are a number of like loose pieces of bric-a-brac around the room that you get the feeling have a look of Arden Scale, Ashahai, Verdant, like cultural icons, which is not surprising since all of those cultures come from this continent. You look over and you actually see that on the wall, in particular, what catches your eye, Thorn, is there is a very classic depiction of the Rhyme King, the ruler of the Ashahai, kind of in profile, very serious, captured, etched in the metal of a shield that's hanging on the wall.
Thorn tilts their head.
There's a game board. There's a number of like very loose, comfortable chairs around. And what catches your eye as well is in the back left corner, there's a set of double doors, and next to it is a large chunk of what looks to be broken pillar that has carvings all along the front. And there is a huge greatsword jammed into the top of that stone, sort of sitting there embedded in the stone.
Flip is gonna try to talk to Nettle and just be like, my dear friend, I admit that you were right that these artifacts are quite dangerous, but have you taken any precautions, or are we safe here? And what exactly is the danger that you've sensed? And that's all as
No, you
go.
So you, as Naoko, you step forward to the party and you sort of just speak to the room as though you're speaking to Nettle, the verdant sorcerer, the verdant wizard that you're looking for. Your words echo through the room, and you get no response. You don't hear any response back. What you do notice as you look around the room, though, is there's no plants here. There's no presence of plants.
Oh, okay.
This room definitely has the feeling of like the receiving room of an archaeology professor. There's some appropriate knickknacks set out. There's a few tasteful nudes on the walls, like the kinds of things you would expect from somebody in the right, like, and then the right social circles.
Is there anything
Thorn is going to
cool?
try the door.
I mean, the cool thing is the fact that there is a large, elaborate broadsword sticking out of a cracked stone tablet in the corner.
Is the sword well made?
I was gonna say, if you want to give it an investigation check, you can figure. Oh, you know what? Do you have weaponsmithing tools or smithing tools? Like that? Give me a smithing check with advantage as you examine the quality of it.
Intelligence again?
Yes, intelligence again, because you're figuring out like the quality of the item.
21.
It is very nicely made. So the broadsword itself, you would probably guess, is something along the lines of a masterwork. It's elaborately engraved and has several jewels set in the hilt. The actual pommel itself has a like a dragon scale pattern all through it, with the top almost looking like a small like crystal eye. And it's jammed into the stone. As you've gotten close, you can see that it is a large tablet or steel. So it's a rough stone that on the front has been flattened and like polished to a really high sheen. And there's script all along the front of it, running along the tablet.
It's written in Ardent.
It is written in. Sorry, I need to grab that note. It is written in Pyren.
Huh.
Does anyone here speak Pyren?
No.
I do not.
Thorn definitely doesn't speak that.
Okay. So no one currently in the party would recognize this language.
If only I could read all writing.
Can I pull it out?
The sword?
Yeah.
Thorn's going to stop you.
So Calvin reaches up, and as you place your hand on the sword itself, you can see that the scales sort of shimmer for a second, and the sword itself kind of warms to your touch. Do you give it a pull?
Yeah.
Can I pull him off before he does that?
Do you want to let?
I mean, ideally, I would stop him before he touches it.
Okay, so you're gonna try to stop him before he even touches it.
But if I can't do that, I'm gonna like.
Are you gonna let Thorn stop you? Because this is player for player, so I'm gonna say that you have to adjudicate how this would come out.
I guess.
Okay,
It's a fancy sword.
Take this from one warrior to another. Do not touch your weapon. You do not know. It could be, especially considering whose office we are in, it could be cursed.
A spectral hand is going to start floating right above the sword and slowly start coming down towards the hilt as
You're not helping.
as Twid casts Mage Hand.
Fine. Pork roll. Pick up the sword.
I don't think we are here to steal.
Who said anything about stealing it? I just want to look at it.
You can do that without removing it from its stone.
Porkroll planks forward. Do you have Porkroll pick up the sword?
Yeah.
Okay. Porkroll reaches forward, wraps their hand around the sword, and as they go to pull it, it lifts for about a second and then clunk. And then sort of lowers it again and tries to lift it up, and it's clunk, clunk, and it just can't. It seems that something's holding the sword into the tablet.
See, totally not cursed. Pork roll's fine.
That means little. He is made of metal.
I'm wearing metal. So Twid can pull it out. Perfect plan. Twid, you should pull it out. You're made of metal.
I will say, why all this has been happening, Twid, while you were casting the spell, you felt this very familiar scent of like cold energy run up the back of your spine, and you feel like just this presence at the back of your mind, and you hear a voice that says, "Oh, Twiddle, pull it out. You should touch the sword. What's the worst that could happen?"
Can't hear this.
Nobody else hears this. No one else hears this. And as you hear that, for you, Twid, it's almost as though something is speaking from within the bag that you keep your dolls in.
I think I should touch the sword.
We are not here to tamper with Naoko's office. We are here to gain access to the office for our purposes. Also, once again, that sword could be cursed.
Oh, Twitty, don't listen. They don't want you to have the sword. You should take it.
Okay. And Twid will grab the sword and pull it up.
I'm just gonna pick Twid up. I'm twice your size.
I will say, since it's player-on-player conflict, the player that you're trying to interact with, which is Twid, would have to decide to let you stop them.
How are you trying to stop Twid?
At the moment, I'm just attempting to pick you up because I am twice your size.
I will say, if you want to resist, give me a dexterity check, Twid.
Do I get to make a contested check of
Nope.
like how good I hold on?
Nope. Player-on-player conflict. It comes down to the person letting you, because we're telling that story together.
18.
18. So you pick Twid up, but as you do, Twid reaches their arm out, and because their arms are actually only attached by like some etheric energy, their hand slides farther than you expected to and grabs around the hilt. As you lift them up, you simply help them pull the sword out. It clang hits the end of what the sword would be, and as you're watching, you hear you sort of see it clang, and there is this spark of fire that runs up the blade itself and sort of flies just along the edges of Twid's hands.
Oh, Thorn drops Twid like a sack.
So now Twid is just hanging from the hilt of this sword. The fire dances along your hands, and you hear a voice in your mind that sort of pushes the other one that you're more familiar with out, and you hear, "You are found wanting."
Uh-oh.
Twid, what did I say? Put it back.
What do I want? Twid is responding to the voice, saying, well, what do I want?
Did you say that out loud?
And the sword's response is, "You are found wanting."
Thorn draws a sword and is like, Twid, put it back.
Twid is gonna look around and say, It keeps saying I'm wanting something, but I don't know what.
What is it saying, Twiddlemop?
You found wanting, you...
That means it does not like you.
Oh.
Calvin is whipping out some stuff out of his bag, like his Smith stools and like a little gem shaper's monocle.
All right, are you casting anything, or what are you doing?
I just want to inspect the sword.
Okay. If you're not going to touch it, I will say you can give me an investigation check. You don't get the advantage on it, though, without being able to handle the sword.
Ooh, nat one.
Ugh. There are so many different things that a talking sword could be. Also, you're not 100% sure it's actually talking, because you're not sure that Twid doesn't hear voices anyway.
Can I try to take a look at it? Would it count as an item made from precious metals and gems?
It is made of. It does have precious metal and gems embedded in it. I will say that for determining if it's truly magical, though, you would need to either use magic or be using like a feature that allows you to learn more about magic.
Okay.
And Twid, you'll hear in the back of your mind go that voice again. Wanting? Twiddlemop. Are you going to sit there and let it tell you that you're wanting? I found you to be a perfectly wonderful host.
See, I'm a perfectly wonderful host. And Twid is just gonna, I don't know, drop the sword.
Yeah, so if you let go, you fall like about a foot and sort of hit the ground, and the sword, the fire along the edge of the sword goes out.
Thorn like audibly sighs.
That was not a very nice sword.
I assume you would all know this. The Ashahai have an aversion to fire. So yeah, you were about a second away from getting stabbed.
Makes sense.
Valen leans down to Twid and goes, "It's okay, Twid. Thorn always tells me, look with your eyes, not with your hands, but that's so much more boring."
And the voice in the back of your mind, Twid, just goes, "This is the part where you just nod and pretend like everything's okay."
Twid nods and says, "Everything's okay."
Good job, Twiddlemop. Don't worry, there should be other fun things in here. Good.
Twid will clap their hands together and go, "Maybe we'll find some dolls."
Maybe in the next room. Why don't we go look? Thorn has not put away their sword. So just Thorn has one icy blade just at their ready.
I will say, absent any way to either decipher using magic or skills the tablet or anything to detect magic itself on the sword, you have sort of made the checks that you can make.
But I don't want to, because I'm not encouraging this. Also, I don't want to fucking know.
Twid, if you still have your mage hand, maybe you should put it back in the stone before we keep going.
The sword itself didn't come out. It was sliding out a little bit further right when Twid heard that voice, and then it stopped.
Gotcha. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's time we move along. We still need to find my dear Nettle. Foot remembers that he looks like Nyoko.
Thorn's gonna try the door.
Okay, so Thorn, you go over to the set of double doors that lead further into the building, and sort of casting a very nervous glance over at this door, which just sits there silent now that no one's touching it. And you turn the knobs and push the doors open ahead of you. As you do, let me reveal a little bit more of this map.
Including the things.
Yep. So you open up into a larger, what seems to be workspace. When you do, you can see that this room is the one that you had trouble seeing into, Flip. One wall is just full of plants that seem to be growing in tandem of a number of different varieties. The air itself actually has that humidity and heat that sort of comes with being like a greenhouse. There's a number of plants set up against the windows, several of which have these long trellises built so they can climb up the sides of the windows and soak up all the sun. There are these two large baskets that seem to be full of various fruits and other goods. And at the far side of the room, there are these deep earthen troughs that are wood filled with wet earth that have these glowing mushrooms inside of them. None of this draws your eye in this room half as much as the two creatures, one of which who's kind of crawling over the couch, the other who seems to be looking inside one of the fallen over pots that seem to be that occupy this room. Taking a closer look at them, you see that they are roughly the size of a grown human. They have these long, thick spikes running all along their back, the skin sort of leathery and beaten and kind of pockmarked as though there's something it's regularly been exposed to caustic elements. And their form seems to be withered and pulled in a little bit. And there's one large green eye that glows from the front. This room, because of the heavy plant growth on the outside, is cast into a dusk. So it is a dark room. The most noticeable thing is the bright glow of that green eye as they both kind of turn to you. And one of them just sort of, as it curls kind of further behind the couch with just that eye kind of poked over it and the large hand sort of digging into the fabric. You can see that kind of strewn across this room seems to be somebody's work, as there's papers and parchments and books sort of everywhere, sort of discarded. You think pulled from some of the the little cubby holes that are on the wall, and they are kind of scurrying around. They both freeze, and the head sort of snaps over to you.
Would it be an nature or arcana check to see if I've heard of these?
I will say in the flash moment, let me give me an arcana check to see if you can recognize what
I
these
like
are.
that less. Once again, almost an 18 is a 2.
Is it 2?
I don't like
Nope.
this dice roller.
2 will not tell you anything about these creatures other than they have a giant eye and they're freaking you out just a little bit. And here, for those watching the stream, I'll give you a little zoom in. That is what the party is seeing.
Oh.
Can I call out for Nettle?
Yeah, you can call it Nettle's name. As you do,
I'll do it in Loaming.
As you do, I need you to give me
Me personally?
yeah, you specifically, as you make noise. So you call it Nettle's name?
Yeah.
As soon as you do, I need you to give me a charisma deception check.
14?
Give me a sec. Let me roll.
You said deception, right?
Deception.
Okay.
As its eye kind of locks onto you, you see it flash this dark green, and you, I will say anybody who's next to Thorn, which I guess would be just Valen, as you kind of look over to Thorn and you see them lock up a little bit, and their eyes flash the same green color. Tell me one fact or secret about you.
Thorn is seriously debating killing Twiddlemop in this moment.
That
is a fact.
As you think that, the creature goes, like, tilts its head and is like, "What is a Twiddlemop?"
Twid will poke their head between Valen and Thorn and go, "Did someone say my name?"
Thorn draws the other sword.
You draw the other sword? Let's roll for initiative then. As soon as you draw the other sword, the creature that was behind the couch, that had like the eye flash, sort of like its claws just slice through the fabric of the couch, and it kind of crawls up on it, and the other one tenses up and turns to the party.
I cannot roll tonight.
It happens.
Ooh, I thought I rolled bad. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Thorn.
I'm starting to roll physical dice starting next week because this is ridiculous.
All right. I think only person we're waiting for initiative is Flip. All right, so that should be everybody up. So let me sort our initiative order. Twiddlemop, you'll head us out as these two creatures sort of grow aggressive as Thorn draws their sword.
Twiddlemop will, sort of peeking between Valen and Thorn, go, "I don't like the looks of these. Lucretia, you're up." And Twiddlemop will pull out this sort of very frumpy, dark-haired doll with sort of greenish toned skin and hold the doll forward and cast Eldritch Blast at the right one, or at whatever one said Twiddlemop's name.
That's the one that's on the couch.
Oh, then the one at the couch then.
All right, roll the hit.
Oh, 11.
11. No, you cast it spell, and as you do, the beam of energy slams into the couch, and where the creature had previously torn like a little bit of the couch corner, you decimate it. So like the whole back section of the couch is just eviscerated, disintegrated.
Whoops.
Next is Calvin.
Do
I will allow anybody else on their turn who can also make an Arcana check if they would like to figure out what these things are.
I have to use my action for that, or can I free action that?
Free action that.
12.
12. These are definitely some kind of aberration. Some kind of magic has changed them. You've heard some stories about like the side effects of wizards trying to change things about themselves too much, but it doesn't ring any specific bells right now.
So we're gonna 5, 10, 15. Porkrill's gonna move on up. I'm gonna say, let's get him, Porkrill, and Porkrill's gonna make his attack.
Roll the hit.
That'll be a 23.
23 hits. Roll for damage.
And that's 10 points of force damage.
So Porkrill slashes down at the creature. Now that kind of exposed, now that the back of the couch has been disintegrated by Twid's Eldritch Blast, and cuts deep, basically running a big furrow along the front of it. As it does, this greenish ichor just sort of flies off. Where it hits the ground, you hear just the faintest of like almost an acidic burn as it makes contact with the rug.
And then with my action, I'm gonna pull out the sword.
Oh, you're gonna grab the sword?
Yeah.
All right.
The one that was lit on fire.
Give me a charisma check, just a flat charisma check.
Oh boy.
Calvin have. I forget how I built him.
No boy.
Oh. Okay. This is a 16.
So with the 16, you reach out and you grab a hold of this large broadsword that's sort of gilded and completely bejeweled with, clearly bejeweled and very intricately carved. As your hand closes upon it, you feel that same burst of fiery energy well through you, and the fire flames up in it. And you have how much?
16 was my charisma roll.
And the voice says, "You may carry me into battle."
Mm.
And it comes loose. And you're now holding the sword.
Boom! I hate it. I'll use my action or my move to move up next to Porkrill, brandishing the new sword.
So that was I would say that's your bonus to grab the sword.
My bonus was for Porkrill to attack.
For Porkrill to attack, yeah. So you use your action to pull the sword bonus. The sword is in your hands. As you step forward, the nimbus of fire rolls across your whole body. So you're now, like, not engulfed in flames, but there's this flicker of, like, foxfire that runs across Calvin's form. You can even see a couple places, like, his hair ruffles as though there's a breeze around him, as does the edges of his clothes.
Is it a one-handed sword or a two?
It would be a two-handed sword.
Okay.
It's broad, so it's versatile. You could use it one or two, or sorry, long sword one or two, but you get the better stats if you use it two-handed.
I mostly ask because I use a shield. So
So if you wanted to keep your shield, you can one-hand it.
Okay.
That would just result in you using the lower damage dice. And give me a charisma check. Give me a constitution check.
Check or saving throw?
A saving throw, sorry.
11.
11. You take 6 points of psychic damage.
Ouch.
So that voice in your mind, it feels like it's pressing into your mind and taking up space. And as it does, this splitting headache sort of flashes across one side of your vision. You get that crack that appears across your vision like a migraine, and then it like settles back down again. And now it's these things' turns. So the one closest to Porkrill is going to make an attack against Porkrill. It's going to slash out twice with its claws. The first is a 22. The second is a 16.
They both hit.
They both hit? Okay. That is 14 points of damage total as the claws just rake across Porkrill. With Porkrill's metal body, you just hear the of claw on metal as like these rents appear in his chassis.
Ugh.
All right. That is the first one. The second one is going to meander up to... Actually, you know what? From where he is, I'm going to have you make a Constitution saving throw, Calvin.
7.
It digs its claws into the wood and like sort of curls its body up. As it does, the eye flickers with that same green energy, and where before it was like a light flicker, this is this intense burst of light, and a beam shoots out at you. And where it hits, you see it slam into Calvin, and your skin gets this mottled bruise look, like you're 3 days into healing a bruise, so all that purple green, and you take. You take 13 points of necrotic damage.
13.
Mm-hmm. And move further back. Because it does not like the look of that sword. Flip, you're up.
Okay, sorry, he moved. That changes things. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Okay, then I am Flip. From where I am, can I see into the whole room, or do I need to like move into the room?
From where you are, you can see the whole room because it is that double door is pushed open.
Excellent. Then I am going to once again call out and cast Fairy Fire in a 20-foot square, capturing these 2 creatures.
If you want a drawing tool, you can draw it exactly where you want it to be.
Yep.
That way everyone will be able to see. And again,
good point.
If anyone's curious about the stats of our party or whether or not their health is going up or down, if you roll over the stream, there's a pop-up for D&D Beyond that will let you see their stats and their current hit points, as well as their abilities.
For example, you can see just how hurt Calvin currently is.
You can indeed see how hurt Calvin is.
Indeed. So once again, the party sees Flip kind of reach out and call out, and these ghostly, spectral, glowing, bluish-green limbs reach out and try to grab the 2 creatures, and I need them both to make a dex save of 12.
Absolutely. They would be happy to do so.
Yeah.
One makes it, one fails. The one on the very far side fails, the one closer makes it.
Okay, so the far one has spectral limbs outlining it in a glowing blue-green light, and that now, if you can see it, you have advantage on it.
Oh, beautiful. So it's got that glowing light on it. Let me toss a indicator on its character. All right. So that is everything you want to do with your turn, Flip?
That is my action. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna do.
All right, let's move over to Valen then. Valen, what would you like to do with your turn?
Seeing Calvin get hit so bad, Valen immediately runs up and like throws a hand onto Calvin and casts Cure Wounds.
Okay.
And it's just like, Calvin, are you okay?
So roll to heal for Calvin.
Okay, not bad, not bad. You will heal for 9.
9. Okay, so you see all that bruising and that model like damage that rolled across Calvin's side and Calvin's neck fades away, and so you're pretty sure most of the damage done is gone. Not all, but most. That's everything you want to do, Valen?
Yes.
I was gonna run up to the one that Corporal was on, but now Thorn is trying to get as far away from that sword as possible. So Thorn is gonna run up to here.
All right, so you're gonna run up to the Nothic at the very top.
Yes.
Okay. And what are you gonna do? Are you gonna roll to hit?
Take a swing.
Take a swing. Okay.
With advantage.
With advantage.
Hit the wrong button. 23.
23 will definitely hit.
And then I'm gonna burn a smite. Do
Ooh.
these count as undead or fiend?
They do not.
Damn it. Ooh, that's pretty good. For 17 points of slashing damage.
17 points of slashing damage. How much is the slashing? How much is the magic?
Oh yeah, let me double check. It was. Ooh, wait, I did the math wrong. Sorry, it's 20 because 7 of it is my sword, and the other 13 is the
Holy
radiant.
damage. Radiant damage. Okay, so 20 total.
Yeah.
You slam into that creature and you cut down with your sword. And as you do, this bright line of light slices across it. It is this deep blue that feels cold, but like is impactfully charged. So it's that bright blue of like a really hot flame, but it's a cold light. Would you like to make a follow-up attack?
I was gonna say, do I feel it's still standing?
It's still standing. Oh yeah,
Yes, I
it's
would.
still standing. It's definitely hurt, but it's still on its feet.
That would be a critical.
A crit? Okay.
Yep.
So roll again, and we'll double whatever you get on the damage dice.
Do I burn my? No, I'm not gonna burn my other. I only have one left.
What else could possibly go wrong? It's not like I have a whole bunch more map for you.
17.
17 damage total?
Yes.
Okay.
I rolled.
It is looking
Real good.
very wrecked after that second hit. You can see that there is just green ichor flowing down its body, and it's sort of hunched over, and its eye has this green, like discoloration sort of flickering in it. It definitely seems like it wants to use more of its powers, but it can't get the charge.
That is all.
All right.
Yeah, this one's real fucked up.
Twiddle Mop, what are you going to do? Also, if you'd like, you can make an Arcana check at the beginning of your turn.
Oh, okay, I'll do the Arcana check first. Huh. 9.
The 9, same thing. There's a lot of creatures out there that have been changed or warped by arcane magic. These could be one of them.
Twit is gonna run into the room, and as they're passing, Calvin will be like, "Say hi to the voice and the sword for me," and we'll run over here, and then is going to turn and, still holding Lucretia the doll, Eldritch Blast through Lucretia at the.
Hit with advantage.
Okay. Ha. Ha. So, what is my to hit modifier right now? 17.
All right, so 17 hits. Why don't you roll the damage for me?
11 force damage.
So you hold up Lucretia and you channel the power of your Eldritch Blast. As you do, that powerful Eldritch energy blasts out of the doll and into the creature. As it does, the creature's head just snaps to the side and it collapses to the ground.
Twit will let out a little, like, maniacal laugh, glee. Like,
Not creepy or anything. Calvin, you're up.
First thing I'm gonna do is use my bonus action to like reach out and give Pork Roll a little scritch on the ear and let him repair himself
Okay. Is that your bonus?
as my bonus action.
Yes, you can use your repair. And what do you want to do with your standard action?
With my standard, I need to roll for my heals. Uh, 4 plus 8 is 12. 12 plus... I don't think it makes this easier. 12 plus 2, 14. He heals. Oh, he fully heals. Good job, Pork Roll. I'm proud of you. And then with my move, I'm going to slide here. And then I'm going to try and smack it with the sword.
All right, roll to hit.
Can I use just the stats of my longsword?
Stats of your longsword +1.
And it's magical, right?
Yeah, it's
So
magical.
it works with my artificer ability.
It would work with your artificer ability, yes.
So it'd be 13 to hit.
13 to hit. Did you add the +1 to hit?
Mm-hmm.
13 does not hit. So you swing the sword down, and the creature just manages to scuttle out of the way. It needs to make a Constitution saving throw, though. Fails. So as you swing the sword down, roll for me 2d6.
8.
As you swing down, the sword bursts into flames, and this wave of hot air sort of pushes out through the whole room. And all of you kind of can feel the suppressive heat, like someone opened the door of an oven, rolling off the sword. As it swings by the creature, you can see that the side of its skin blisters, even when it didn't get hit by the sword. And it is going to take its turn and slash back at you.
Pork roll is going to give it disadvantage.
All right. Okay, so yeah, Pork Roll reaches out with his arm to block you, and it's going to swing twice with its claws. One's a 1, so that's first one's a fail. The other one also rolls a nat 1 on one of their disadvantage rolls. So both claws slash out at you, and both times Pork Roll ping ping knocks them wide, keeping you safe.
He is the most loyal of companions.
He is the most loyal of companions. Flip, you're up. One of them's down. Sorry, let me actually remove that one from the map to make it easier for everybody. One is still up.
It is down. Okay. Still just gonna kind of move up here. You know what? No, I'm gonna hang back here, just outside the door. And I'm gonna throw a vicious mockery at the one still standing. So I need it to make a wisdom save of 12.
Wisdom save of 12. You got it. And it fails.
Excellent. So it is going to take, ooh, yay. Okay. 4 psychic damage as ghostly faces just kind of press around it and start whispering weird, creepy ghost sounds.
Well, it takes 4 points of damage, and it feels slightly bad about itself because you're bullying it.
Even my ghost friends are cooler than you.
Valen, you're up. And then Thorn, you're on deck after. And then Twiddlemop, you'll be third.
I would also like it to make a wisdom saving throw of at least 13.
Of at least
I'm running
13.
on empty. It's been a long day.
It fails.
So Valen looks at it and goes, I think we've had enough of you, and casts Toll the Dead.
Okay.
Ooh, good roll. It's gonna take 12 necrotic damage.
Ooh. So you cast the spell, and you feel, as you watch, you can see the vitality sort of drained out of its body. That same thing that happened to Calvin. These thick bruises sort of model across its skin, and you can see it sort of hunch against the couch like it's losing its energy. Thorn, you're up.
I'm going to run up on the opposite side of Calvin. So remind me that flanking means I get advantage, right?
Does not mean does not in this game, no.
Oh, never mind. I don't know how flanking works.
Flanking doesn't really exist in D&D 5th edition.
Unless you have pack attack.
Unless you have pack attack or other features that allow you to use flanking. It's mostly relevant to rogues.
Does an 11 hit?
11 does not hit.
I missed my first sword because I am concerned about the giant flaming sword. The second one is a critical, though.
Critical? Okay, roll for damage.
Finally. Ooh, that's pretty good. 23.
23? Total damage?
I rolled 10 on my dice.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I already doubled. Sorry. 13.
13. Okay.
I can do math.
I was going to say, that's a lot of damage for your offhand. So, Thorn, you run up behind it, and
I know math.
Your first cleave goes wide. As it ducks around, you bring your other sword sort of up in front of it, and you slash backwards, basically slitting the thing's throat. As you do, it just collapses down onto the couch, gives one last pitiful and then just dies. So you have defeated the creatures. The room is now quiet, minus the soft patter of its blood dripping onto the ground.
Ugh.
And I will say, Twid, you hear in the back of your mind, ooh, this is fun. And
This is fun.
we are going to close for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for tonight's session of Just a Little Bit. We appreciate all of you who stuck with us through the whole session, and especially knowing that we ran a little bit long. Thank you all. If you want to get updates about when we're next going to be streaming, definitely follow us. It will update you whenever we go live. We also have a Twitter, which has lore on the history of the world of Obra, as well as where you can find some information on all the races that you saw here today. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.